His Excellency, the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, Premier, the Honourable Alan McLaughlin, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly and President of the Cayman Islands branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Dr. the Honourable W. McKeeva Bush, Deputy Governor, Honourable Franz Manderson, Deputy Premier, the Honourable Moses Kirkconnell, Ministers of Cabinet, Attorney General, Honourable Samuel Bulgin, Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Ezra Miller, Deputy Speaker, Honourable Bernie Bush, Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Alva Suku, Councillors and members and fellow members of the Legislative Assembly, senior government officials, youth parliamentarians, students, parents, teachers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As chairperson of the Youth Parliament Organizing Committee, it is my privilege to extend a warm Cayman kind welcome to all who are present in our August Legislative Assembly this morning. We are once again here to witness the culmination of a very important youth development exercise that we, the members of the Legislative Assembly, take seriously and look forward to annually. It is important to note that annual Commonwealth Day celebrations have taken place across the Commonwealth every year from the 1970s. The aim has been to, and I quote, celebrate the unity, diversity, and links of the modern Commonwealth, and to foster greater understanding of the Commonwealth's achievements and role, particularly among young people, end quote. And one way we in the Cayman Islands give importance to the annual Commonwealth Day observance is to celebrate our youth, our future leaders, many of whom, as you will shortly see and hear, are getting their grounding in public leadership through participation in this event. I am proud to say that this is the 12th annual Youth Parliament organized by the Cayman Islands branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and is even more distinguished by the fact that we have the largest participation so far in such an event, with 27 high school and tertiary education students from Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac as active participants. A lot of hard work has gone into this exercise. The students have put their hearts and souls into their preparation. From exploring and finalizing the topics they will debate today to prepping their individual contributions. Starting from early October last year, they have navigated their regular studies, including tests and examinations, and taken on the additional task of attending Youth Parliament preparatory sessions. February was hectic as they reached high gear in their preparations, meeting twice weekly and putting longer hours into their individual preparations outside of these meetings. The participants from Cayman Brac were very actively involved via Skype at all these prep sessions. My fellow committee members, Councillor David White, MLAs Mr. Kenneth Bryan, Mr. Alva Suku, and Mr. Bernie Bush, ably assisted by Madam Clerk of the LA, Mrs. Zena Marin Chin, her deputy, Ms. Deborah Miller, and Assistant Clerk, Ms. Davina Ramatur, join me in extending the warmest greetings to our 27 young men and women. We laud your efforts, and we look forward to great things today and into the future. My heartfelt commendations and thanks also to our resource persons from within the Legislative Assembly, Honourable Ezra Miller, Honourable Samuel Bulgin, Sergeant of Arms Mr. Kim Evans, and former parliamentarians, Honourable D. Kurt Tibbetts and Mr. Mike Adam. And from the outside, Mr. Alfred MacLeod, Correctional Counselor at Her Majesty's Cayman Islands Prison Service, Ms. Paulinda Mendoza Williams, Director of the Department of Children and Family Services, Ms. Christine Miller, Social Work Supervisor at the Department of Children and Family Services, Mr. Sidney Williams of Bonaventure Home, and Ms. Claire Hughes and Mr. Bill Lamonte, both from Plastic Free Cayman. Their active involvement helped take forward the two timely and significant topics chosen by the young people for their debate today, which are to regulate the use of plastic bags in the Cayman Islands and the need for implementing a juvenile detention and youth rehabilitation center right here in the Cayman Islands. You will see and understand at the end of the debates today how vital it is for us all, but particularly for lawmakers in these islands to hear and comprehend the viewpoints of our younger generation. And lastly, but certainly of great importance, is the stellar contribution of law firm Harness, led by partner Mr. Nick Hoffman, who have again delightfully sponsored this year's Youth Parliament. Harness proved once more their deep commitment to bettering the education, knowledge, and future prospects of youth in these islands, and my heartfelt thanks to them. Because even if all young persons cannot be participants, they can be inspired by their peers' participation. I hope that our youth are motivated by this event to formulate and share their own views for tackling future topics of interest in the community, thereby making the Cayman Islands a better place to live for all of us. Participation in youth parliaments can be a life-changing experience for participants themselves, who are keen to take on board every lesson that can be gleaned from the whole process. This can range from preparation to presentation, whether it is basic public speaking or fine-tuning of debating skills and improving persuasion proficiencies. One significant gain for the youth parliamentarians is a good grounding in the rules and regulations that guide all business in this honourable House. They now understand better parliamentary procedures and privileges, code of conduct, and how to maintain decorum in such a public position. Equally important, if not more, is the power one can bring to the debate with well-researched material and powerful arguments couched in compelling words. This all adds up to invaluable experiences for a multitude of tasks and professions in later life, whether in public office, as MLAs, in corporate boardrooms, legal firms, or the judicial courts. Let me confess that in the years leading up to me contesting the elections and becoming a people's representative, I would certainly have cherished the opportunity to learn the ropes early by participating in a youth parliament. And I would like to share another significant fact about this youth parliament, which is of particular importance during our ongoing Honouring Women's Month celebrations. I am pleased to announce that out of the 27 young people, 11 young men, 16 young women, we have 5 young women that are representing key roles in our youth parliament today, namely the Speaker, the Premier, the Deputy Speaker, Deputy Leader of the Opposition, and the Clerk. As we strive for gender equality in the world, let us commend these young women in the roles that they have chosen in this debate. We are entering an exciting period of history where the world expects balance. We notice this absence and celebrate its presence. So please join me in wishing our young parliamentarians the very best of debates as we look forward with anticipation and enthusiasm to hearing their viewpoints on 2 matters of enormous topical interest. Thank you.
protocols have been established. Her Majesty's, the Queen's Commonwealth Day message has always been read in the Assembly by the presiding officer at the meeting following Commonwealth Day. This Honorable Youth Parliament is most appropriate for me to read and record Her Majesty's message today, being Commonwealth Day. Commonwealth Day has a special significance this year as we mark the 70th anniversary of the London Declaration, when nations of the Commonwealth agreed to move forward together as free and equal members. The vision and sense of connection that inspired the signatories has stood the test of time, and the Commonwealth continues to grow, adapting to address contemporary needs. Today, many millions of people around the world are drawn together because of the collective values shared by the Commonwealth. In April last year, I welcomed the leaders of our 53 nations to Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and we all witnessed how the Commonwealth vision offers hope and inspires us to find ways of protecting our planet and our people. We are able to look to the future with greater confidence and optimism as a result of the links that we share, and thanks to the network of cooperation and mutual support to which we contribute and on which we draw. With enduring commitment through times of great change, successive generations have demonstrated that whilst the goodwill for which the Commonwealth is renowned by may be intangible, its impact is very real. We experience this as a people of all backgrounds, continue to find new ways of expressing through action the value of belonging in a connected Commonwealth. I hope and trust that many more will commit to doing so this Commonwealth Day. Elizabeth H.R. Good morning. Oh, I hope you're not sleeping. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's better. Let me add my welcome to all of you this morning, but to especially welcome our special visitor this morning, Major David Rankin Hunt, advisor in the London office, and recognize our former speaker, the Honorable Mrs. Mary Lawrence. As I said, protocols being established, I am happy to be here to mark Commonwealth Day and celebrate our youth in the Cayman Islands. I am proud of all that our young people have achieved and how they continue to distinguish themselves. As you will soon see and hear, and I hope that most of you will endure the day with us, they are ready to prove themselves before their parents, their peers, their teachers, their friends and well-wishers, and indeed the entire Cayman Islands. By participating today, they are also taking forward this Commonwealth theme, a connected Commonwealth. The Cayman Islands, this place we all call home, has some 130 nationalities, with a significant number from outside the Commonwealth as well, who live together in unity and in harmony. As such, we are a microcosm of the cultural diversity and unity that characterizes the Commonwealth. Despite our differences, we all belong to the Commonwealth family. Young people, I can say to all of you, be a sensible nationalist. Be proud. Be proud of our islands. This is our home. But don't go overboard into nationalism, which gets us nowhere. Be mindful that there are scores of others from all over, as I have said, 130 nationalities who came to build a home and help us. United, we stand. Divided, we fall. It's a truism that we all need to follow. It's easy, most times, to be a nationalist. Sensible nationalism, however, never comes easy because it takes decisions that may be unpopular. Be careful of those who bellow nothings on radio shows and social media, proclaiming that nothing is done for our own, meaning you, and perhaps me too. Study hard. We've come from a very poor country. Some of us with nothing but lamplight to study. Study things that our parents perhaps couldn't help us with. But we've come this far by hard work to this land of growth and opportunity to be educated and to have employment. And in my 40 years of involvement, I've never seen as much opportunity for young people as we have today. You are a blessed generation to that extent. Be careful of those who would say otherwise, and be careful of those who would tease you to drag you along somewhere that you will never or might never return. Young people, be on guard of the platitudes of those who offer strife, who, when they talk with you, can't tell you anything but how to fight. And sometimes that's good. Where I went to school, we had to fight. We didn't fight with knives. We didn't fight with guns. I fought with words, sometimes with my feet, meaning I ran away. Not that I was a coward, but it was the best thing to do. Be on guard. Be on guard who offer war, but no peace, no solutions. And so, you 27 college and high school students represent some of that rich diversity I mentioned. In honor of the Commonwealth family, ladies and gentlemen, they have planned for you today a celebration of the 70th anniversary of the formation of that organization. The Commonwealth now comprises 53 member countries and 2.4 billion people. By aligning themselves as government or opposition benches, independents, or as impartial members in the position of the Speaker and the Legislative Assembly staff. Our young people here will demonstrate the important role of peaceful democracy within the Commonwealth. This year's theme, A Connected Commonwealth, also encourages collaboration to protect natural resources and the environment. As such, one of the topics chosen so thoughtfully by our youth for today's debate seeks protection for our environment by regulating the use of plastic bags. I am happy that the visiting member of Parliament from the UK Commons were able to chat with some of you once he visited the Assembly on this very topic. These pernicious pollutants of lands and oceans alike do little to enhance the environment, even when they break down. My colleagues in this honorable House will also endorse me when I say that we eagerly await the debate on the other very timely topic as well, which is the implementation of a juvenile detention and youth rehabilitation center. It is a most useful talk, and I'm eager to hear your views on it. I'm especially proud to report here that two of our past youth parliamentarians, Ms. Bianca Tibbetts and Ms. Grace Grant, represented the Cayman Islands today at the London Commonwealth Day celebrations at Westminster Abbey. It is also fitting to note that in March, when we in the Cayman Islands observe honoring Women's Month, as was said by our able chairperson, we have girls in the majority among the record number of 27 participants in today's Youth Parliament. And I must just say here to you, it's not that we didn't have women vying for a position in the House of Assembly over the years. They just were not voted in. And so it's left up to them, the women of this country, to put forward their best foot. Those that have did so over the years, and those that have tried, have accomplished much. And so, young ladies, there you can take a pattern. Feel free. It's not an easy thing, this thing called politics. Oh, you are in a very good position where you are. This is a good training ground. But politics is not easy. It's never easy. Yet, I plan to try for another time. Overall, I feel reassured that our younger generation are gearing up well to take on the future responsibilities of leadership, stewardship, and management of these islands, whether in the political domain, whether in the civil service. And there, I should remind you also that this is not the only place you can make a contribution. You can do so throughout the community. But the civil service of this country carries through the policies of the government. And there we need steadfast, honest, as we do now have. You should inspire and look, some of you, forward to positions in the civil service. It's one of the safest places to be today in employment. Oh, you will hear otherwise, but do the research yourselves. I commend and sincerely thank all who put enormous effort in bringing this youth parliament together. The chairman, our able colleague, Ms. Barbara Conley, and the committee. The youth parliament over the years, since we started several years ago, has proven its worth many times, and I'm confident will continue to do so into the future. I too look forward to the proceedings ahead as I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, all of you do. Thank you, and good morning, and Godspeed your deliberations.
Chairperson Barbara Connolly, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier, all other protocols being observed. Good morning, colleagues and aspiring parliamentarians. It's always heartening to witness young people showing an interest in politics and in how the process works in this, the third arm of government. In opting to be involved in our youth parliament, you're participating in a well-established worldwide movement that seeks to inspire youth to play a more active role in political and other civic affairs. The Youth Parliament initiative is therefore a very important area of focus by the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and of our Legislative Assembly. For our part, we are deeply committed to giving you the opportunity for this short while to take our places and to sit in our seats, as long as you don't get too comfortable, at least not right now. Through this exposure, we hope you will get a sense of what it is like to be involved in presenting and debating motions. We think this is important because exercises such as these are among the best tools for strengthening youth citizenship. Now, I know you have heard that before. Encouraging citizenship among youth is a notion that everyone gives lip service to without really thinking about why it is so important and how to increase relevant opportunities. Listen to the words of the late Alvin Toffler, an American writer, futurist, and businessman, known for discussing modern technologies with emphasis on their effects on cultures worldwide. Mr. Toffler said, "The secret message communicated to most young people today by the society around them is that they are not needed, that the society will run itself quite nicely until they, at some distant point in the future, will take over the reins." Does that sound familiar? I'm sure it does. But I'm sure the rest of what he had to say on this topic will also ring true to you. Continuing, Mr. Toffler said, "Yet the fact is that society is not running itself nicely because the rest of us need all the energy, brains, imagination, and talent that young people can bring to bear down on our difficulties. For society to attempt to solve its desperate problems without the full participation of even very young people is imbecilic." How true. Yet, how for the most part disregarded in the adult world. The sad complication of restricting youth from participating in political and other civic involvement is that youth often face issues that many times go mostly unheard. Sad, because as Alvin Toffler made clear, increasing understanding of the needs of youth and their involvement in community and national decision-making is one of the best ways to improve our world today. Indeed, bringing to bear your collective voices on national issues can and will determine the kind of country to which you and future generations will live. So, I hope that your engagement here today will awaken a desire in you to become active in civil society, playing as only you can, a role in the development of the Cayman Islands. I encourage each of you to continue involving yourself via other community platforms and to share your unique perspective on national issues. Because many of the issues we are facing now will have a direct impact on your future, that of your children and grandchildren. Yes, all of that is in store for you, believe it or not. Now, some of you may be wondering how you can become more actively involved. At least, I hope that you will feel that way by the end of this exercise. A good start is to contact your elected representatives, asking to be involved and to be allowed to participate, and insisting that they listen to you. Think too about the many organizations that would welcome your energy and your youthful fervor and ideas. And through these platforms, you can make a difference in this society. And here's a novel idea for my friends in the government to consider. Why not select youth, perhaps from among the participants in the Youth Parliament today, to represent this important sector on boards and national committees? It is a win-win. Youth will feel their opinion is valued, while adult members benefit from fresh perspectives, optimism, and their energizing enthusiasm. As one commentator said, no other segment in the society can match power, idealism, enthusiasm, and courage of young people. I therefore look forward to listening to your debate on the motions and bills that have been placed on today's order paper. Enjoy the experience, learn from it, and stay involved in this community and national affairs. But above all, relax and enjoy the experience, as I know my colleagues and I will, as we listen to your fresh ideas and observe your novel presentation styles. We, your soon-to-be predecessors, have much to gain from this experience as well, and look forward to ultimately seeing you take your place in our beloved island's civic and political affairs today and in the future. Thank you for participating, and best wishes for an edifying, exciting, and most likely life-changing experience. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. A special welcome to all of the youth parliamentarians and to their families and friends and supporters who are here again on another Commonwealth Day as we celebrate a connected Commonwealth and also celebrate and look forward to the contributions of our youth parliamentarians. I always get to come last, it seems, so by the time I get up to speak, everybody said what I had prepared to say, so I shall cast that aside and speak to you a little bit about some of the things that I have been thinking about, and I'm sure others have as well. Aldous Huxley spoke about the brave new world. That's a long time ago. What we are living in and what this generation, your generation, has before it is not just a brave new world, because there's lots of that. Technology is at an all-time high, but also a very scary new world. The purpose of this exercise, Youth Parliament, in terms of building leadership skills, knowledge and understanding of the political process, and giving you an opportunity to articulate what really moves you, is increasingly important in the world in which we live. The Honorable Speaker alluded to the Cayman that he grew up in, I grew up in, and the Leader of the Opposition grew up in, although they're plenty older than me, okay? But we grew up in the same grand Cayman. A Cayman where, when we were born, there was no radio station, no television, no telephones. Places like East End and North Side had no electricity. That is where we have come from in about 60 years. We came from a population then of about 8,500 people to a population now, my guesstimate is about 6,000 to 7,000 people. All of that in that period of time. Women only got the right to vote and stand for office 60 years ago. Now, Cayman is one of the foremost most progressive small countries in the world, where there is a wealth of opportunity available to not just those of us who are of this place, but those of us who have come and joined the population here. The Honorable Speaker spoke about some 130 different nationalities in the population of these islands. That, I believe, probably more so than any other single factor, has been the contributing factor, the principal contributing factor to Cayman's tremendous success. Our willingness to accept and invite other people to come and join us and to help build this nation. I raise that because the world that we are now dealing with more so than at any other time, I believe, certainly in our lifetime, and certainly since World War II, is headed down a road where isolationism, nationalism, militance, racial and ethnic tensions, hate speech, anti-immigration sentiment are on the rise. We see an increasing tendency of countries to elect persons to high office who are nationalists in their outlook, who are isolationists in their viewpoint, and who increasingly blame all the woes of their nation on things like immigration and religion and the ethnicities of people who are coming in to the country. We see the threat, if not the reality, of trade wars between the two most developed and important nations in the world, China and the United States. We see and we hear the anti-immigrant and nationalist sentiments expressed in the supposed need to build a wall to keep immigrants from coming from Mexico into the United States. We see on television every day the crisis, economic, social, and political crisis in Venezuela, and the impact that is having on the lives of the citizens of that once great country. We see the growth in tensions which which have existed for many years between India and Pakistan over the Kashmir region. Brexit, again, a situation brought about because of strong feeling that there were too many foreigners, among other things, too many foreigners taking over the jobs and opportunities of British citizens. And we see, which I've actually experienced with my own eyes, the now weekly burnings, setting fire and protests of the Gilets jaunes, the yellow vests in France. This is the world that you all are set to inherit. And your responsibility, which will come along faster than you think, believe you me. I think when you start to get older, the years come faster. I swear Christmas comes every 6 months now. When I was a child, it took 2 or 3 years. But seriously, this is the world that you are being prepared and which you must prepare to deal with. Cayman, small though it is an increasingly important country, nation in this world, given what we do, particularly with the provision of financial services to the world. We have succeeded, as I said, because we have steadfastly refused to accept isolationism and nationalism as part of our political and social culture. And while there is rhetoric from time to time around from these benches, on the talk shows, that's always been the case. But by and large, Caymanians have understood that our success is linked to our willingness to take the best and make them part of us and grow the kind of nation that we have and we still do. Your generation has greater opportunity than any that has come before it in these islands. But you are all of the studies and surveys and reports, not just nationally, internationally, but locally as well, indicate that your generation is one of the most anxious, the most worried, the most concerned that has ever been. You worry about your economic prospects for the future. You worry about the future of the world. You worry about climate change. You worry about discrimination. You believe, and I think this is wonderful, like no other generation before you, that equality is a God-given right, regardless of your color, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your gender, regardless of your sexual orientation. That, I believe, holds great prospects for this world. And my sons are a bit older than you all now, the youngest at 23. But I still believe I have enough insight through them and through their friends into the thinking of your generation to be able to say with confidence that the future of this country, I believe, is bright, it is secure, because you care more about the things that are important and the things which are sustainable and which will allow this country to endure not just for the next generation, but for generations to come. And so your experience here, some of you have been before, but your experience here today, and your work over the course of these past months, and indeed for some of you over the past years, in helping prepare you for the leadership role that I know all of you will take, if not in these hallowed halls, certainly in Cayman society is so important and so encouraging that I believe that the Leader of the Opposition, the Speaker, myself, and my other colleagues can be heartened in knowing that when the day comes, as it inevitably will, that we depart these chambers will be inhabited by persons who are even better qualified, who have even better judgment and experience than we did, to continue to lead these islands over the course of the next 50 years and beyond, to be an even greater beacon of opportunity and light than it currently is. I wish you all well in your deliberations today, and I shall spend as much time as I can listening to you. Good morning. I forgot my most important task, which was to declare this 12th Youth Parliament of the Cayman Islands officially open.
Madam Speaker, all rise.
This Honourable 12th Youth Parliament is now in session. I will ask the Honourable Premier to say prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct the deliberations of this 12th Youth Parliament of the Cayman Islands now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundation, for the glory of thy name, and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip Duke of Edinburgh, Charles Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all those who exercise authority in our commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the youth parliamentarians participating in this youth parliament, that they may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of their high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace, now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Reading of messages and announcements by the Speaker.
Members of the Legislative Assembly, fellow youth parliamentarians, friends, family, and all other members of the public, good morning. The theme set for this year's Commonwealth Day is a connected Commonwealth. This theme was chosen to signify the fact that even though the Commonwealth countries are stretched all over the world, They're connected in some way and at all times come together for the good of their countries. Just as our members come together to join parties, which then become governments, or when countries come together to join unions, we, the youth parliamentarians, work together to ensure that we have a successful debate today. We work together to decide on the topics which we are going to discuss today. One topic addresses the issue of plastic bags, the use of which the government wants to ban. Coincidentally, in London, at the Commonwealth Day celebration earlier today, the Blue Charter, which deals with non-renewable plastics and how research have helped to develop environment-friendly alternatives for the disposal of plastic, was highlighted. On the other hand, the opposition youth parliamentarians are here to discuss the need for our Cayman Islands to implement a juvenile detention and rehabilitation center. The topics brought today in the Youth Parliament are for the betterment of our environment and health, along with the use of our islands. They are very different. However, the outcome of the bill and the motion has the potential to create dynamic and impacts of both locally and internationally. The young adults sitting before you today, we are your children, your family, your friends. We are also the future leaders for these islands. So I beg upon you this day to listen keenly and carefully to understand what we, the younger generation, consider to be the issues that need addressing, our views on how to address them, and the fact that we deeply care for our islands, and the impact that we have on this world, which we live, the connected Commonwealth. Thank you.
Government business. Bills. First reading. The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019.
The bill has been deemed to have been read a first time and is now set down for the second reading.
Second reading. The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019.
I recognize Honorable Minister of Health, Environment, Culture, and Planning.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move a bill shortly entitled The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019.
The bill has been duly moved. Does the Honorable Minister wish to speak to the bill?
Good morning, Madam Speaker. I rise today to present the bill shortly entitled The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019 towards this Honorable House. To begin, I must first read the contents of the clauses established within this bill so that the House may be properly informed of the contents herein. Madam Speaker, as Clause 1 introduces the short title of this bill and Clause 2 detailing the significance of key terms such as business, meaning a proprietor which sells for the point of sale plastic bags, the authority established within this bill being the Cayman Islands Waste Management Authority, plastic checkout bag, meaning bags made from non-biodegradable plastic meant for commercial use, and whereas Clause 3 states that the ban on plastic bags would include a ban on the point of sale for businesses giving plastic bags to customers, and as Clause 4 states that any business found in contravention of that would be liable to a fine of $1,000 with a $500 additional fine for each day it stands against the clause. Clause 5 detailing the enforcement of this regulation through the Cayman Islands Waste Management Authority, with abuses being levied in civil actions if need be. Clause 6 overviewing the implementation of a public education program to disseminate the implementation of this law for public awareness. And Clause 7 stating that the Cabinet will consult with the authority over the regulation, implementation, administration, and enforcement of this law. Let it now be known, Madam Speaker, that each clause has now been read with its short title, along with a brief descriptor. And with that, the House now being privy to this legislation, I shall now inform the House of the importance of this bill. Madam Speaker, it is imperative that this House implements this bill immediately so that we, as a nation of Caymanians and 130 other nationalities, can safeguard the islands we call home. My honorable colleagues will discuss the various positive impacts of this bill and how it will benefit the Caymanian economy, the Caymanian tourism sector, and the Caymanian educational system. Madam Speaker, I would like to discuss today why this bill is important and necessary for both our health and our environment. Madam Speaker, the environment is the lifeblood of the Cayman Islands. Our beautiful beaches, our outstanding oceans. But the growing prevalence of plastic will endanger this lifeline. The detrimental impact of plastic on our environment originates with the chemistry of plastic. Plastic does not biodegrade, meaning that unlike fruits or other natural materials that the environment consumes and absorbs, plastic remains. Plastic does not disappear either because its material does not simply absorb itself. Inevitably, after long periods of time, the plastic does break down. And what happens to those plastics that break down? Well, there's a term to refer to those plastics. It's called a microplastic. And when the fish in the oceans consume those plastics, or the terrestrial animals on the earth eat those plastic, it ends in their digestive system, ruining their health and potentially choking them in a pain that is insufferable. But Madam Speaker, it is more than just simply the effect it has on the digestive system of animals. It is the effect it has on our mangrove systems, our first line of defense against sea surges, our defense against rising ocean levels. What can plastic bags specifically, potentially have with mangroves, you might ask? Well, it's simple. When plastic accumulates in the oceans and the mangrove systems, they become entangled within the roots, weakening those roots over time as plastic begins to weaken. And when we lead to a weakened mangrove system, Madam Speaker, I must inform this House that we end up with higher levels of sea surges during hurricane season. We end up with biodiverse habitats in our oceans becoming weaker and weaker, eventually leading to a loss in biodiversity. The immediate impact of this event is more than just the loss of habitat as well, because it eventually will lead to knock-on effects, affecting every other marine species in the Cayman Islands, from turtles to groupers to everything in between. Madam Speaker, I'd like to give a quote from the United Nations which states that 5 trillion single-use plastic bags are used worldwide every year. In total, half of all plastic produced is designed to only be used once. Madam Speaker, this is nothing but simply atrocious. It's atrocious. The amount of plastic is simply too much to use in any sort of sustainable manner. In fact, the UN has also stated that in addition, only 9% of every plastic bag ever consumed has been recycled. Madam Speaker, it is clear to me, in my honorable opinion, in my educated opinion, I might add as Minister of Environment, that the time for incremental change has passed. We can no longer afford this lifestyle convenience, and we can no longer afford to continuously, purposefully damage the environments we call home. But Madam Speaker, if the environment is not enough to assuage the opposition to back this bill here today, I must also then inform them of the disastrous impact it will have on the members' health, as their children's health, and the health of our nation's youth. Madam Speaker, there is a problem with plastics. There's a problem with its chemistry. When it enters into our system by way of either the fish or the animals that have ingested plastic, as I've mentioned earlier, there is a problem called an endocrine disruptor. But Madam Speaker, what exactly is an endocrine disruptor, you might ask? Well, according to the National Institute of Health in the United States, those endocrine disruptors are chemicals that may interfere with the body's endocrine system, which produces adverse developmental, reproductive, neurological, and immune effects within both the humans and the animals. And whereas, Madam Speaker, the World Health Organization and the National Institute of Health, both prestigious scientific bodies, have internationally recognized that the plastic does act as an endocrine disruptor, we must ask ourselves where we head from here. In my view, this is nothing short of a health crisis. This is a health crisis that is directly affecting us today. In fact, Madam Speaker, it's only quite recently that a study has been put out by the National Institute of Health that has stated that in almost all participants in an observational study, they have found traces of plastic within those human being's fecal matter, meaning that plastic has went through the digestive system and has at least shown to be prevalent enough to enter into our fecal matter. This is nothing but simply atrocious. Madam Speaker, it is very easy to criticize and to call into discussion disastrous policies and disastrous lack of action. But it is nothing but hearsay and it's nothing but talk if we do not propose solutions. And that is what this bill is. It is a solution. It is the only solution that we can perceivably see to safeguard our island's nature, our island's health, and the culture of our islands to prevent an accumulation of plastic that ruins our prestigious environments. But Madam Speaker, we are not the only nations who have also recognized this importance. Take the example of Costa Rica, a country in Central America that, like us, has an economy relying on tourism. But crucially, this country has recognized the danger of plastic to their environment and through that, their tourist economy. And so what has Costa Rica done? They've implemented various new laws and regulations that prohibit the selling of single-use plastic bags in their country. But Costa Rica is not only the country, even in the Caribbean, that has done so too. Jamaica, Aruba, the Bahamas, and even in South America, Chile, have implemented similar laws, regulations against the proliferation of plastic. And even, Madam Speaker, 2 days ago, March 9th, 2019, the government of New South Wales and Australia, home to a population of 8 million people, have implemented a law that states that all plastic bags are to be illegal within 100 days. A similar time frame as put forward in this bill. If a state such as New South Wales can implement such similar and such equal legislation within 100 days, why can't we, as a nation of 65,000, who is economically posed to implement such regulations, who is culturally posed to take advantage of the wondrous God-given gifts that we have been given, not do the same? Madam Speaker, I would like to echo the sentiments brought by the President of Costa Rica when he stated, when we grow old, people are going to ask us, did you do enough about it? So we must start answering that question today, now. We must leave our islands as pristine as possible for the future of our children. We must leave our islands as beautiful as can be for our health. This is not a problem we can leave for our children. We must find a solution, and Madam Speaker, that solution is this bill. The time for delay is over. We cannot stand docile in the face of danger. We cannot simply continue to sleepwalk in the face of environmental, in the face of health catastrophe. Madam Speaker, change is needed now. We need to stand in solidarity amongst government, amongst opposition, to recognize the truth of the matter, that such importance is beyond petty party politics. This is a matter which affects our health, the health of our children, the health of our children's children. Madam Speaker, I want my children to grow up in an island just as I grew up in. An island where I can head to the beaches. I can head to the beaches with the assurance that I won't see any plastic that I would directly see. I want the assurance that I can go to a fish market, I can go to a local fish market and eat from them without having to think about if there is plastic in that fish. Madam Speaker, I wish simply to return to a Cayman Islands of previous, of tradition, of cultural heritage, where we can safely raise our children with knowledge that they have been put forward at the forefront of our economy, of our health, and of our environment. The solution, Madam Speaker, is more than simply that. It is this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Bordentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise this morning to support the bill entitled The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019. I want to address this bill from the perspective of the consumer, specifically from Clause 3, which states, "A business shall not provide plastic checkout bags to a customer at the point of transporting groceries of other merchandise." Madam Speaker, we need to ask ourselves, what is best for the consumer? Companies, brands, etc. tend to think about what is best for the person purchasing their product. From the perspective of a consumer, we always lean towards what is best. When it comes to shopping, we want to look for cheaper alternatives. Now, the plastic bag may seem like the best method for customers. It's cheap and it's plentiful. But the price we pay indirectly and directly over long periods of time is too much. Buying a plastic bag every time we head to the store is not worth it. And when we look at the cost over a long period of time. Madam Speaker, how often do you use a single plastic bag when doing your weekly, monthly grocery shopping? You can easily end up using 5 to 10 bags per shopping trip. If one trip you use an average of 10 bags, think of the fact that there is 52 weeks that make up a year. You buy all these every week. Now, if it's a monthly grocery shopping trip that you do, the possible average of bags you purchase is 10 to 20, seeing that you're buying enough to last a whole month. You don't realize it, but you are continuously buying plastic bags. Madam Speaker, this is only one example of one person's dependence on plastic. Madam Speaker, I would like to inform you that this happens millions of times all over the world every year. Research done by the Earth Policy Institute was conducted, and they have stated that worldwide, 1 trillion single-use plastic bags are used each year, hereby 2 million each minute. We stand as a part of this world, and there's no way we can separate our islands from the world. Madam Speaker, a plastic bag can only hold so much, and plastic can only last so long. But Madam Speaker, what type of bag can last long? What type of bag can hold lots of items? The answer, Madam Speaker, is a reusable bag. These bags are relatively easy and can be offered for free by some stores. Almost every store offers eco-friendly reusable bags. Madam Speaker, one of the concerns is that the prices for reusable bags are relatively expensive. But recently, it has come to my understanding that some of the decent-sized bags that are sold at Foster's are as cheap as 99 cents. Reusable bags are a single purchase item that can be used multiple times. It is so easy to gather them, it shouldn't be hard to having to choose between paying once instead of having to pay multiple times for a plastic bag. And as you can see, at Foster's, they aren't even that expensive. To our benefit, reusable plastic bags can also be free. Some companies hand out bags as a marketing strategy for their company by pasting their logo on the reusable bags. When they host events where they showcase their company, they can hand out these bags for free. You get a free bag, and they get free promotion of their company. Win-win. Lastly, some people would argue that people can have the tendencies to forget their reusable bags. That's merely an excuse of a reason, because regardless, we will forget at times. We are only human. Think of this. When you were a little kid, didn't you forget to brush your teeth when you were first introduced to having to make that a part of your daily routine? You had to get used to it until you remembered it unconsciously. Before things become a habit, you'll forget at first, but eventually, you can get into routine. There are ways to remember to bring it, like placing it in areas that can be seen easily, or putting the bags in the trunk of your car right after use. Everything takes time, and anything can be a habit. Madam Speaker, the question is not whether it's costlier to use these bags. The question is if the cost is worth the impact that they have on our home, our community, our island, and the world. I leave you with this quote by George Bernard Shaw, a Nobel Prize recipient in literature. Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Speaker. Cayman has a big problem. Single-use plastic bags are polluting our beautiful island, and we must do something to stop it. According to an article entitled "The Plastic Trap," Caymanian shoppers use about 12 million plastic bags annually. 12 million. We are a population of roughly 60,000. Using that many bags is a major environmental problem that we must solve. We cannot let our island suffer because of our unwillingness to work on bettering our environment and community. Because of this, the Cayman Islands government is proposing a bill which will reduce this problem by banning and regulating the use of plastic checkout bags in grocery stores. The government's aim is to ensure that Caymanian people understand what we are trying to accomplish with this bill, as well as put motions into place so that everyone is able to find suitable substitutes for the plastic grocery bags. This will ensure that the transition from single-use plastic bags to more environmentally friendly options is as smooth as it can be, so we may take a step towards a cleaner future. Madam Speaker, as a developing country who is constantly growing, the Caymanian government wants to ensure that this beautiful and great island continues to be in its peak condition for future generations. The opposition may ask why the government doesn't go straight into a full ban immediately. However, I will use the example of Antigua and Barbuda, who decided to take this change in steps, and they were so successful in their first year that eventually they were able to implement a full ban on all single-use plastics and styrofoam. According to a UNEP report entitled "Status of Styrofoam and Plastic Bag Ban in the Wider Caribbean Region," the first year was so successful, the ban contributed to a 15.1% decrease in the amount of plastic bags discarded in landfills in Antigua and Barbuda. By following this example, we will be able to further the beauty of our island and ensure that it stays with all our generations. Not only this, Madam Speaker, if this bill is passed, Cayman will be able to join the Commonwealth Clean Oceans Alliance, which is an action group committed to regulating plastic use in all Commonwealth countries. Being part of this organization will help our island do more towards the ban on all plastics in the future and reduce the high levels of waste produced by plastics in our environment, as well as make Cayman truly plastic-free. Plastic usage has decreased in Cayman because of initiatives such as the organization run by Ms. Claire Hughes, Plastic Free Cayman. Plastic Free Cayman aims to reduce single-use plastics in the Cayman Islands by raising awareness on the issues and helping people and communities towards a plastic-free journey. All of this began because Plastic Free Cayman founder Claire Hughes noticed a drastic change on beaches when she visited them years ago and her children visited them now. She said, "When I first arrived on island, you'd find bamboo and sea beads and sand dollars on the shoreline. My children now find plastic bottles and plastic cutlery and plastic toothbrushes. Plastic, plastic, plastic. It horrified me to think of the amount of plastics that there must be in the ocean." Actions such as beach cleanups, giving talks to students and communities, organizing petitions to ban plastic use in Cayman, and so much more has been done to allow the Cayman Islands to see a cleaner, more plastic-free country. But we need to do more. We have to do more, and this starts with the ban on plastic checkout bags as proposed by our bill. To conclude, although the banning of plastic grocery bags may seem like a big step for the Cayman Islands, in reality, it will not be as difficult as a process as we may think. The government will ensure that Caymanian people are given better alternatives than these harmful plastic bags and will follow the steps of our fellow Commonwealth countries to ensure this transition is as smooth as it can be. But let's be honest, if we are working towards the betterment of our island and its future, all the work must not fall solely on the government. Because of this, Madam Speaker, we as a community need to come together, both the government and opposition, to ensure that this proposed bill will allow the Cayman Islands to move towards a cleaner and better future. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Prospect.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to begin by congratulating the government for bringing forward this initiative. The opposition knows that plastics are one of the most serious environmental pollutants, and we all know that the use of plastic checkout bags is a part of the problem. On the face of it, the government's bill to regulate the use of plastic checkout bags is a step in the right direction. However, Madam Speaker, is the government's bill as currently presented the solution? How much real difference can it make in reducing the use of plastic bags? And even more importantly, how much difference will it make in reducing the overall problem of pollution by plastics? I would say not enough. My position, Madam Speaker, is that the government's bill in its current form and with its current focus is inadequate, insufficient, and therefore needs to be amended. Madam Speaker, let us look at the specifics of the bill. It proposes to ban plastic checkout bags, but not all plastic bags used in stores. Instead, Madam Speaker, the bill lists 9 different exemptions to this ban. There is no breach of this bill if you use plastic bags, for example, for packaging loose items such as fruits, vegetables, nuts, ground coffee, grains, candies, or small hardware items, or to contain or wrap frozen foods, meat or fish, flowers or potted plants, or other items to contain dampness, or to protect or transport prepared foods, beverages, or bakery goods, or given by a pharmacist to hold prescribed medication, or use of newspaper bags for home newspaper delivery, and the list goes on. So, despite the fact that these plastic bags are made from the same poisonous material and are not biodegradable, if you use them in stores and you did not get them at the checkout point, they will not be banned under this bill. So, Madam Speaker, the government proposes to ban some, but not all, or even most plastic bags in stores. This is an issue. However, the bigger issue is that plastic checkout bags aren't necessarily the plastics we need to worry most about in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, we learned from a representative of Plastic Free Cayman that in the span of 2 hours, over 1,800 plastic bottle caps were found on our beaches, and 700 pounds of polystyrene material were collected in Cayman Brac. Madam Speaker, polystyrene can be found in plastics and styrofoam. It is usually made with hydrofluorocarbons, which have a global warming potency of approximately 1,000 to 1,300 times that of carbon dioxide, and is currently found dumped on our island's beaches and oceans, and is the 5th largest creator of hazardous waste. Polystyrene is found in takeout food packaging, plastic disposable cutlery, bottles, packing peanuts, and much more. All of these materials are used in our everyday life and simply thrown away after one use. Prolonged exposure to high amounts of styrene can affect central nervous system, causing diseases like Parkinson's disease and cancer. Some of the toxic chemicals found in polystyrene include high levels of formaldehyde, which cause cancer, respiratory, and nervous system problems. Another plastic pollutant harming our waters is plastic bottle caps, from soda bottles, milk cartons, packaged juices, and water bottles. Again, these are all materials used in our everyday life and thrown away after one use. Plastic caps can be eaten by fish, as we heard, and that we catch locally and buy in our supermarkets. Bottle caps contain carcinogenic chemicals and BPA. When these fish are eaten, these chemicals are inside of all of us now. Studies have shown that BPA can affect brain development and cause infertility and cancer, all things that put us, Caymanians, at risk. I will conclude, Madam Speaker, by acknowledging that plastics are a serious and devastating local and global pollutant, and that the use of plastic grocery bags is part of the issue. However, I cannot agree with that the current bill before us is the appropriate way forward. The focus of the bill is just too narrow. 9 categories of plastic bags will be permitted in stores, so how much impact will this bill actually have? But more significantly, the bill ignores the fact that the problem with plastic in our environment is far greater than just the use of plastic grocery bags, and will not make a dent in the amount of other types of plastic materials, such as bottle caps and polystyrene, that are a main source of pollution and in our local waters and a main contributor to the size of the landfill. Madam Speaker, it is for these reasons that I cannot support this bill as presented to this honorable House.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize Honorable Deputy Governor.
Madam Speaker, I stand today to offer my thoughts on the bill titled The Regulation of the Use of Plastics Bill 2019 and the consequences this bill could have on the Cayman Islands. The Chamber has heard a multitude of opinions the bill could have, and Madam Speaker, I would like to offer some facts and statistics to help this Youth Parliament understand the bill. Currently, shops and convenience stores provide plastic checkout bags to their customers for their groceries. Most of these times, the bags are discarded and many are found on the side of the road, thrown in the ocean, or end up in the landfill. The Cayman Islands face a serious issue with single-use plastic bags and their role in polluting the seas. A single plastic bag may seem insignificant, but in vast quantities they pose a threat both locally and internationally. The CCOA, Commonwealth Clean Oceans Alliance, as well as Britain, has taken serious action towards this problem. In Bloomberg Reader's article, it states, to drive this forward, the Prime Minister has announced £61.4 million of funding to boost global research and help countries across the Commonwealth stop plastic waste from entering the oceans in the first place. In the same article, it states, International Development Secretary Penny Mordaunt said the UK will commit £25 million to help researchers approach the scourge on marine plastic waste from a scientific, technical, economic and social perspective. It will also put £20 million to prevent plastic and other environmental pollutions from manufacturing in developing countries. The UN too has spoken on the matter, as head of the UN Environment Agency said, among the recommendations are specific action policymakers can take to improve waste management, promote eco-friendly alternatives, educate consumers, enable voluntary reduction strategies, and successfully implement bans or levies on the use of sale and single-use plastics. Another thing that was said during the report was the assessment shows the action can be painless and profitable with huge gains of people and planet that can help costly downstream costs of pollutions. If both the UN and CCOA are discussing taking action to this issue, Cayman should really consider taking this matter seriously. In the Cayman Islands, we have facilities to recycle things like cardboard, paper, glass, and 2 other types of plastics. There are only 2 types of plastics recycled in the Cayman Islands. It's a Type 1, PETE, and Type 2, HDPE. Type 1 is intended to be used as a single-use plastic because chemicals used for cleaning break down the plastic and make it dangerous for reuse, especially for water bottles. Globally, 20.7% of packaging is Type 1. Type 2 HDPE is used to make milk bottles, detergent, oil bottles, and some plastic bags. Again, all of these are considered single-use plastics. 90% of packaging globally is Type 2 HDPE. Type 2 plastic goes through a granulation process which takes large pieces of HDPE plastic and shreds it down or melts it into pellets and granules for later use. The typical grocery store bags we use in Cayman are usually made from Type 4 plastic, LDPE. 27.6% of global packaging is Type 4. The large percentage of plastic we use is Type 4. Type 4 cannot be used in the same way Type 2 can. It requires to be melted down into thin plastic sheets and by a machine, so it can be sold to producers for a repurpose. Therefore, not only shopping bags are single-use plastic, but they're also not a plastic that can be recycled in the Cayman Islands. In conclusion, there are a multitude of reasons the government has given for the implementation of this bill. I would caution this Youth Parliament to take into account the prevalence of both plastic in our island and internationally. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for West Bay Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I listened with great interest to the government, and I want to thank them for bringing this important issue before the Legislative Assembly today. I do not think that anybody within these 3 islands disagree that the disposable plastic and the issues that it causes the environment are both pervasive and real. We also only need to travel to the USA or any of our neighboring Caribbean islands to see plastics lined up on their beaches, in the ditches, and so on. However, I am concerned with the limited scope of this bill brought by the government, particularly where it deals with only one type of plastic waste, such as plastic bags. It fails to consider other waste from all kinds of plastics and from products containing plastics, from, from packaging to electronics to furniture to construction materials to straws and utensils. Therefore, I encourage the government to amend the bill, as was done similarly in Canada, where even the manufacture and importation of all toiletries that contain plastic microbeads were prohibited. This strategy reduced the quantity of microbeads entering marine ecosystems. It also demonstrates that the problem with plastics should be approached holistically and not in a vacuum. Madam Speaker, this bill also compounds the challenge that bans and taxes eventually get added to the cost of plastic bags. Invariably, those costs are passed on to consumers. As a result, businesses pay more, consumers pay more, and our competitiveness declines. Therefore, we also have to be careful before we impose more regulations on Cayman's businesses, because these will get translated onto the Caymanian consumers. Right now, this effect on companies has already manifested itself in grocery stores, such as Foster's Food Fare, Hurley's, and Kirk's. The government's poorly thought out policy on plastic bags have encouraged these companies to no longer provide its customers with a complimentary bag to house their goods, but now charge the consumers 5 cents per plastic bag. The profit raised from selling these are pocketed by the company and left up to them on how it should be distributed, if at all. Members can be assured that the opposition members of this assembly will be the only ones at the table representing the interests of taxpayers. We know what this would mean for taxes in Cayman, and we are going to make sure that whatever recommendations come out of the committee, they will be reflective of taxpayers' concerns that their governments spend money wisely and live within their means. Madam Speaker, with respect to the government initiative, I think this bill needs a serious revision. I believe to do this, the government should start with a commitment to leverage procurement processes to focus on sustainable plastic products utilized by government operations right across the islands. It should commit to lead by example by diverting 75% of all plastic waste from their operations by 2030. After all, the Cayman Islands government is our largest employer, our largest landlord, and our largest purchaser. Therefore, action by the government's own operations stimulates innovation, supports the emerging industries dealing with this problem, and has a much larger impact were we not at the center of policymaking in the Cayman Islands.
You have a minute left.
If we're going to start moving down this road, we had better think carefully the long-term impacts and do it in a smart way. Therefore, until this bill is amended to include other plastics, I simply cannot support this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Deputy Governor.
Premier. Chanel. Premier. Premier. Honorable Deputy Premier.
Sorry, I recognize Honorable Deputy Premier.
The Cayman Islands, a British overseas territory with crystal clear waters in striking shades of blue. The steep underwater walls teem with marine life, and the stunning 7 Mile Beach is its crown jewel, with a range of water sports and beach resorts. The island that was once forgotten by time is now the island that we will never forget. Good morning, Madam Speaker. I'm sure that everyone here is questioning the relevancy of my opening. However, it clearly points out something which we as Caymanians tend to forget, and that is the fact that we thrive off of our impeccably maintained beaches, which you have found upon the seas. In retrospection, the tourism industry has had exemplary business in the past years. In 2017, we had a record of 2.1 million tourists. We were ranked 143rd in the whole world regarding travel and tourism direct contribution to GDP. And we had tourists spending over $485 million on island businesses, hotels, and attractions, a $55 million increase on 2016. Madam Speaker, the tourism industry and the overall economy of the Cayman Islands is evolving and growing. And if we, as Youth Parliament, were to disagree with this bill that is before us today, we would only be prohibiting our islands from such growths. Furthermore, why do I say this? Think global, act local comes to mind when I contemplate on the use of plastic bags. Did you know that over 1 billion plastic bags are used a minute? And in every square mile of ocean, there are 46,000 pieces of floating plastics. Let's bear in mind that the Cayman Islands is 102 square miles and that there are 361.9 million square kilometers of ocean in the world. Equally important, during my research on this topic, it was astounding to find CNN reports describing the giant masses of plastic waste taking over the Caribbean. Are we seeing the severity of this issue yet? Thousands of sea turtles and other marine mammals are killed after ingesting plastic or getting tangled in it. Cayman is not immune to this disaster. We were informed by the director of Plastic Free Cayman that her organization have had to re-nest turtles in the brack because they couldn't get out due to plastics. In addition, we were also informed that when she went to the government concerning the banning of plastics, no action was taken as to banning them. How do you think we can offer world-renowned submarine tours and turtle as our national delicacy if we allow plastics to remove every touristic aspect of the Cayman Islands? Currently, there are 73.9 million pounds of plastic spread throughout the world's gyres. It has been estimated that there could be as many as 51 trillion microplastic particles in the oceans. The interesting part of it all is that as of 2009, cities in the US have spent over $1.7 billion to keep waterways from being over legal trash limit. Would we like to pay $1.7 billion on something which we could prevent now for free? Correspondingly, I have presented the issue at hand. Now I will present the solution. Costa Rica will be the first country to ban single-use plastics in an effort to be plastic-free by 2021. Tourism and ecotourism are staples in the Costa Rican economy, similar to that of the Cayman Islands. Ecotourism is defined as a tourism directed toward exotic, often threatened natural environments, intended to support conservation efforts in observed wildlife. This is something in which the Cayman Islands needs to become acquainted with, and this is because this country cannot afford environmental decay. Not only because some of us care for the environment, but also because a large number of Caymanians rely on tourism for income. Therefore, the move to ban single-use plastics will help with job creation and create stability as the landscapes are improved and more ecotourism opportunities are produced. These job opportunities are already available through Mrs. Sige, who makes bags from animal feed, and this can include the manufacturing of thatch bags, which ties in with culture and gives opportunity to Caymanians. These might be more expensive, but they are usable, and they support and contribute to the growth of our local businesses. Madam Speaker, 600 companies in the Cayman Islands have already signed on to the bag ban petition and are seeing the hazards in which these bags pose to the Cayman Islands. So why can't we? Madam Speaker, lastly, to conclude, my point is that Cayman cannot become just another casualty to plastics. This bill will help to ensure that we continue to be the preferred vacation destination for millions of visitors. This bill will also create a beach for us all to enjoy for centuries to come. We see the damage plastic is doing, and I'm sure we all enjoy our crystal clear waters. We don't want that one day we are swimming in a plastic ocean. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, the government has proposed fines to eliminate single-use plastic grocery bags. However, I believe this bill is insufficient for the Cayman Islands, and I therefore propose an amendment. I believe that banning single-use plastic bags alone is not enough to prevent the harm that plastic does to our environment. One of the most influential tourist attractions we have is our diverse marine life. However, the threat of plastic to marine animals could mean catastrophe if we do not go further than banning just plastic grocery bags.
The Cayman Islands is a tourism-driven economy, with 25 to 30% of our GDP arriving from the tourism industry, which begs me to ask this question. What makes the Cayman Islands ideal for visitors? Our white sandy beaches and unique diving experience. A 2016 survey from the Cayman Compass shows that 88% of visitors to the Cayman Islands visited our beaches. The reasons visitors come to our beaches is clear: our abundant sea life, clear oceans, and clean environment. However, all of this could change if the amount of plastic put into the ocean continues to increase at its current rate. Researchers predict that the plastic in our ocean will double by 2030, just over 10 years' time. What will happen to our pristine, clean beaches then? They will become filthy and undesirable. Will tourists want to visit the Cayman Islands? Madam Speaker, I would say no. What will happen to our economy if the tourists stop coming? It would surely collapse. What will happen to locals? Not only will our beaches, the root of Cayman Islands culture, be ruined, but much of the tourist industry will have to close down, leaving many Caymanians unemployed. Do we want that, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, there are 300 million tons of plastic made annually, and from that, about 8 million tons are dumped into the ocean every year. The Minister of Environment mentioned microplastics that come from plastic bags, but failed to recognize that microplastic comes mainly from other resources of plastic, such as plastic bottles, debris from car tires, fishing gears, and even synthetic fabrics and paint. If the government was really this concerned about microplastics, they would ban these as well. Microplastics can harm sea life in various ways. For example, microplastics contain toxic and carcinogenic chemicals, which increase the chance of disease, affect reproduction, and block digestive tracts in marine life. New studies are showing that microplastics kill fish before they reach reproductive age, causing species to diminish. This could eventually cause species to go extinct. Seafood is a large source in the Cayman Islands, especially for restaurants aimed towards tourists. Local fishermen, whose income depends upon our sea, would become unemployed if the marine population continues to diminish. Even more concerning is the fact that the seafood we are consuming could be harming our health. Most seafood, whether locally or internationally sourced, Madam Speaker, contains traces of microplastics. As was already established, microplastics contain carcinogenic chemicals, which over time could seriously harm our health. Does the government really want to feed us toxic food, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, there's a type of plastic that is quite deadly to our environment. It is called expanded polystyrene, or commonly known as styrofoam. Styrofoam is about 95% air, meaning that it is extremely buoyant and very light. In the ocean, it is consumed by marine life, such as larger fish, birds, and other species. This can eventually block their digestive tract and kill them, or if they're not immediately killed, the styrofoam travels up the food chain to the seafood we eat. This is again contaminating our health. Styrofoam also releases methane as it decomposes, which is 20 times more damaging than carbon dioxide when it comes to global warming and protecting the ozone layer. Global warming could be a huge issue to the Cayman Islands.
You have 30 seconds left.
As it causes glaciers to melt and sea levels to rise. Our islands are only about 7 feet above sea level on average. Global warming could put us underwater. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I believe that as members of this honorable House, it is our duty to the Cayman Islands and indeed the world to do our part in reducing plastic pollution and preventing the damage it causes and reducing the effect of global warming, something which could greatly damage our islands. To do this, I would suggest an amendment to include the fine and regulation of single-use plastic bottles, styrofoam, plastic six-pack rings, plastic straws, and plastic fishing nets. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I will speak on the bill to regulate the use of plastic bags. In our effort to save the environment, we are implementing a bill that prohibits certain businesses from providing plastic bags to their customers at the point of sale for the purpose of transporting merchandise. The purpose of the bill is to remove the numerous extensive complications that plastic bags pose. Madam Speaker, I ask you to note the environmental impact of plastic bags in the Cayman Islands. This bill is crucial as it concerns the impact plastic bags have on our environment, the population, and the animals which reside in the Cayman Islands. We need to concentrate on the advantages of implementing the bill to regulate the use of plastic bags. Madam Speaker, the bill brought to this House today would assure the environmental impacts of plastic bags would be reduced. Plastic shopping bags are perhaps the most ubiquitous items of garbage found in landfills. According to the Ministry of Health of the Cayman Islands, each year, over 60,000 tons of solid waste is produced by the Cayman Islands. Plastic bags and plastic items make up 79% of the garbage, Madam Speaker, whilst only 1% of plastic bags given by the businesses are recycled by the entire community of the Cayman Islands. The public is well informed and aware of the impact of plastic bags, especially environmentally. In the Cayman Islands, fishing is a traditional source of income, which goes back as far as the early 1950s. And many Caymanians still depend on this industry today to make their livelihood. Studies have found that plastic bags pose a deadly threat on our marine life, which we are exposed to when these marine life are caught and eaten. Wet plastic bags appear to look like jellyfish. Sea turtles often ingest the plastic bags and consequently they suffer and die. Due to the fact, plastic breaks down slowly. When it does, it exists in microscopic particles, where it floats in our oceans and is ingested by the marine life, the same marine life we fish for. According to the article, The Atlantic, in the Mariana Trench, the deepest point in the ocean, every tiny animal tested had plastic pollution hiding in its gut. Brown booby birds make their nests on the beaches of the Cayman Islands. Their nests are made of sticks, rocks, and vegetation. The local environmentalists have now been noticing the prevalence of plastic and plastic bags broken into smaller pieces in these nests. It can be assumed that when boobies are constructing their nests from the plastic, they're also consuming the plastic. On the Brac and Little Cayman, you are raised with the mentality of leaving the place cleaner than how you found it. However, with the lack of facilities to properly dispose and manage the waste on Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, it is strenuous to maintain that perception. Landfill problems are compounded by the lack of adequate and reliable responsible waste management equipment. The Cayman Islands government has the responsibility to improve the sustainability of waste management practices, make increased use of waste as a resource, and ensure the protection of the environment and the amenity of the islands. They have the responsibility to ensure all 3 sister islands are fairly equipped to manage and sustain safe practices which ensure we reduce and recycle our waste. Yet, only Grand Cayman received that treatment, where the ultimate goal of closing and remediating the current landfill site and opening a modern waste management facility has been set in motion. The prevalence of plastic bags has only become common in the last 20 and 30 years. Often, environmentalists point the finger at manufacturers instead of the consumers. Nonetheless, Caymanians are equally to be blamed, where many were not raised using plastic bags and have failed to ensure that the current youth of the Cayman Islands know the impact of plastic bags. To conclude, Madam Speaker, by implementing this bill, not only will the environment benefit, but also the Cayman Islands on a whole, as it will safeguard our tourism products, which is the backbone of our economy. The alternatives to plastic bags will reinforce our country's commitment to the environment and our people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Bodden Town South.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Speaker. I rise today to speak on the bill entitled The Regulations of the Use of Plastic Bag Bill 2019. This bill has the potential to improve the community and our youth today. Madam Speaker, I ask you to look at Clause 6 of the bill. The clause states, the authority shall establish a public education program to disseminate information regarding the implementations of this law, and the information shall include publications of this law and publications of the general benefits of recycling. Madam Speaker, this clause is important for the future of the Cayman Islands since it would enable both the community and our youth to be well informed about the issues of plastics and its effect on our environment. Education is important in addressing our problems today and tomorrow. Madam Speaker, the bill brought to the House today would ensure that the future of Cayman would be safeguarded both for the visitors and the community. Madam Speaker, the bill will also ensure that both companies and the public get education on how plastics can affect us as a community. Madam Speaker, we must not only keep our island clean for our visitors, but for ourselves as a whole, because this island is our home. Madam Speaker, plastics are used every day in our community and are thrown carelessly on the streets. We need to teach our young Caymanians that plastic can affect us, affect our island, and why it is important to their community and just not to themselves. Madam Speaker, if we can teach our children the value of caring, of honor, and of respect, then we must teach them to do the same to their environment. Madam Speaker, we must implement the same system of education in every school. We need to show our youth that everyone is important in the fight against plastics. We can and we should put a system in place in every school that teaches our kids about how the use of plastics and what can be done with the plastics. Madam Speaker, not every type of plastics can be reused, but for those that can, we can teach our children about it in school. Madam Speaker, we can teach them that by taking this environmental class, they will not be wasting their time. We can also teach them they can be a living out of plastics. Teaching our kids to live plastic-free isn't going to be easy. It's going to be a rocky road. But if we can teach them the benefits and the importance that is to their environment, and also living plastic-free will not kill anyone. The education must start at home. The education at school is just as important as the education at home, because we can teach our children to live plastic-free at school, but when they reach home, they're faced with plastics. Our kids use but don't reuse, usually because they are not taught the facts and how our environment are affected by their actions. Madam Speaker, other nations have already taken initiatives and realized the importance of educating our youth about the significance of plastics. Madam Speaker, just last year, Canada introduced similar legislations in their school to great success. Youth are inspiring forces when it comes to protecting our environment. Teaching our youth about the problems facing our environment and helping them work towards solution is a benefit for us all, according to their Minister of Environment of Climate Change. Madam Speaker, if a nation as large as Canada can implement such an education system, then surely we in the Cayman Islands can do the same. Of course, Canada and Cayman are two different nations. We can't simply introduce the same Canadian legislation in Cayman. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I believe that the way in which we educate our young Caymanians should glorify our history and traditions, while educating them how plastics and its prevalence threaten this unique culture. As the Minister of Commerce in Planning and Infrastructure brought forward to your attention, this can be done through recycling days where all students help dispose of recycling, international community service projects that help foster a sense of community in our school. Madam Speaker, we can also do weekly classroom sessions by partnering up with Plastic Free Cayman and making both the public and our school take part in beach cleanups. Madam Speaker, we have not gotten to a level of education where we teach our kids how plastics are also dangerous to their health. Plastic Free Cayman has started to work with our youth, but that's simply not enough. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I am pushing forward with this bill because it is important to keep our community and our youth informed about the issues of plastics. We need to teach our community and our youth the disadvantages of plastics to our island. Madam Speaker, we are faced with many problems, but our island depends on how well we educate the public. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for West Bay West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to reject this bill presented by the government, despite the fact that there is an overwhelming problem with plastics within the Cayman Islands, particularly where in 2016 the World Economic Forum reported that an estimated 10% of plastics were cycled back into the economy in some form. Conversely, 90% of it was ultimately disposed on land, air, or sea. The effect of this was that plastic was found to be used only one time, which resulted in a cost of approximately 32 billion CI dollars a year. But this bill doesn't tackle this problem. I observe that the bill imposes a penalty on waste offenders as outlined in Section 4.1 of the bill. For an offender's business can be held liable of a fine of 1,000 CI dollars, and if its breach is determined to be continuing, a fine of 500 CI dollars for every day or part of the day it will be applied. Yet I feel the penalty should be stiffer. Why not impose a requirement of remandating the contaminated environment on the business who is offending? And if the offender's businesses breach a second time or third time, and if caught even after that, its business license should be canceled. If this bill was to become law as is, it would probably face a huge challenge in enforcement. Yes, Section 3 directs that the Cayman Islands Waste Management Authority is responsible for the enforcement. However, it contains an inadequate infrastructure for collecting, reprocessing, and upcycling plastic bags. So the question arises, does the government expect the offending business to report to the authority on how many bags it has issued? If so, does this mean that the offender's business will report on itself and become liable of a fine of 1,000 CI dollars? I don't think so. The reality is, no enforcement will happen, especially since the Cayman Islands Waste Management Authority doesn't even exist. Yes, you heard correct. There is no authority. Furthermore, compliance with this bill will coincide with its date of commencement, and there is no compliance window, period. No accompanying policy, regulations, or legal interpretations being tabled today. Another negative with this bill is that the monies collected would be distributed amongst 3 different entities of government. 50% will go to the Environmental Protection Fund, 25% to the Cayman Islands Waste Management Authority, non-existent, and 25% to the General Fund of Treasury Department. Why is this $1,000 not kept for just tackling plastic bags? Surely the government can see that after each of these entities get a piece of the pie, there won't be any money left to undertake the public education obligation under Section 6 of this bill. I say, fix this bill. Remove the support of linear economy model take, make, dispose, for as is, Section 6 of this bill focuses only on the single-use plastic shopping bags, with the assumption that the plastic bag will be used only once and then thrown away. It needs to focus more on a circular economy model, make, consume, enrich, which will help encourage multiple uses of the bag. To do this, extend the education component under Section 6 so it can address whether there are sufficient supporting administrative structures to fully implement and monitor the recycling systems for the bags at the end of their life. But to do this, I remind the government some of that $1,000 is needed. As policymakers, the government should move to make an amendment to this bill and place enforcement responsibility on an entity that actually exists, like the Department of Environment, who holds the responsibility for overseeing and the enforcement of the majority of other environmental legislation in the islands. While the dismissal of the business license should be with the Department of Commerce and Investment, this strategy will ensure a level playing field is established between all businesses, irregardless of their size, and I am confident that such a stringent penalty scheme will act as a deterrent. Therefore, I encourage the government to go back to the drawing table and start again if they want us to take serious consideration to this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Red Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The opposition believes that plastic bags are a growing issue and have a bad reputation, but banning them could have some surprising negative effects. A ban could have repercussions on consumer convenience and even the economy without making a hugely significant improvement to the environment. The way and means that the government has decided to ban this issue is a concern. Based on the regulation of the use of plastic bags bill, it takes effect on July 1st, 2019, which is far too soon. It will be hard to get everything in place. What happens to businesses who have already ordered or purchased plastic bags to sell in that period? The bill will have a 112-day time period. Do they know how exactly a law is passed? Do they believe that all of this can be done in 112 days, as well as informing the public? Yes, Chile has done this just 3 days ago in a shorter time period, but it is too soon to know the effects after implementing this. We do not know how the people of the country have reacted to this. One cannot just assume that this has worked in their favor and will work in ours. It has been said that various nations have been successful by banning plastics in steps. However, the government has decided to ban it unexpectedly rather than increasing the cost of the bags and easing the public into the ban. In addition, residents and employees need to be trained on how to treat a reusable bag, understand why they're using them instead of disposable thin plastic bags, and learn how to use them safely. The switch is not necessarily quick and simple, and without education on sanitizing reusable bags, there's a public hazard as well. All of that comes with excessive costs. Government would understand all of this if they did adequate and proper research before presenting this vague and imprecise bill. The government then goes on to say, in this law, authority means the Cayman Islands Waste Management Authority. After researching on what exactly the Cayman Islands Waste Management Authority is, could you believe my horror when I found out that this authority is non-existent? It is a question that this department is either non-existent and the government is going to create this, or they do not know the correct names of their various departments, and I question their sanity and judgment. In addition to this 112-day period for this bill to be passed, how does the government plan to set it up? Who will fund this? Who will be in charge? In the bill presented, there are so many exempts. What is the government referring to when they say they would like to ban plastic bags? What do they believe bags are used for if not to carry grocery items, carry garbage, wrap frozen food, etc.? Instead of supplying so many exempts, they should outline what exactly they're referring to. This leaves a loophole for public to say that they're using the bags for the various exempts provided in the bill. In the definition of what a reusable bag means, and I quote, a bag with handles that is specifically designed and manufactured for multiple reuse, are they saying that plastic bags cannot be reused? Who are they to decide what consumers intend to do with their plastic bags? The government then further explains that a reusable bag should be made of cloth or other washable fabric, durable, material suitable for reuse, including plastic that is at least 2.25 mils thick. The common belief is that about anything is better than a typical thin plastic bag you get from the supermarket, but it is not so simple. Again, if the government did their proper research, they would know this. There are surprising environmental issues to consider, as well as situations where plastic just works better than paper or cotton. Sometimes, plastic is even being reused in the process, like lining a bathroom trash can or cleaning up after your dog on a walk. Paper as an alternative is not better. Paper takes up more room in landfills and does not exactly disintegrate rapidly. A SciDef.net article states that paper bags take up 9 times more room than plastic breaks down, and it breaks down at about the same rate. A ban on plastic bags will not do much for the landfills. If anything, assuming an increase in paper bag usage, it could make the problem even worse. Newly marketed single-use plastics that claim to be biodegradable suggest that they will break down quickly into gentle end products, but the reality is more complex. A degradable or compostable plastic item may indeed deteriorate slightly faster than a conventional product, but only if the conditions are right. This bill does not specify how we will dispose of the current plastic bags. What does the government suggest we do with the size of the landfill? Landfill is a leading cause of poor air quality and health of humans and wildlife, or have they forgotten? The bill then goes on to state that a business should not supply plastic checkout bags to a customer at the point of sale for the purpose of transporting groceries
Madam
or
Speaker,
other merchandise.
I rise on a point of order.
What is your point of order?
As the Honorable Minister Alfred Bay pointed, that they're just banning the plastics. As I stated in my speech, there will be recycling days for all the students and the public, There will also be beach cleanups. So we are planning to do stuff for the public. We're just not banning plastics. Thank you.
Well, I would just like to say that it was not included in their bill, it was included in her speech. May I resume? The bill does not specify how we will dispose of the current plastic bags. What does the government suggest we do with the size of the landfill? Landfill is the leading cause of poor air quality and health of humans and wildlife. Or have they forgotten? The bill goes on to state that a business should not supply plastic checkout bags to customer at the point of sale for the purpose of transporting groceries or other merchandise.
As the elected member of the opposition stated, that it was not stated in our bill but in our speech. Then what are these speeches for? Not to change your mind on this bill? Thank you.
But isn't
Technically, Clause 6 of the bill states, the authority shall establish a public education program to disseminate information regarding the implementations of this law. And the information shall include publications of this law and publications of the general benefits of recycling.
May I resume that you cannot fund this production, well, the dissemination of the information, you cannot fund this. You have not provided in your bill the money that you would use to fund this, so therefore it cannot happen. The bill then goes on to state that a business should not supply plastic checkout bags to a customer at the point of sale for the purpose of transporting groceries or other merchandise. This is suggesting that the plastic bags can be given on entering the store. The bill then says that nothing in this section precludes the business from making available to a customer, with or without charge, which causes unfair competition and unfair advantages in businesses. Some businesses may not charge for bags, but others will. This will push our local stores, our local Caymanians out of business and allow foreign businesses who make more money to strive. Local Caymanians may not be able to afford to give away the plastic bags for free. And as a consumer, wouldn't you rather to go towards a business that does not charge for plastic bags? The government is trying to put our local Caymanians out of business. The government says that so many of our locals are relying on the environment for income, yet they are the ones that are putting them out of business.
You talked about giving, what she said? To the foreigners.
The Honorable Deputy Premier asks that you be seated. You may continue.
Thank you. Based on the enforcement provided, to go into a business and see their books, they must have committed a crime. How are they going to enforce this bill? This is not a law, yet as explained before, it does not become a law until it has gone through the stages, which is to be done in a 112-day period. I believe that an innovative idea would be to bring back thatch bags, which is durable, strong, and will also supply jobs for local Caymanians and promote our Caymanian heritage.
You have 1 minute left.
Thank you. I understand that they may be expensive, but when we start to produce more and allow consumers to buy reluctantly, the price will have to drop since we would be bringing so much businesses to local thatch bag makers. Thatch was used to make several types of rope and exported to different islands, which tests its durability of thatch itself, which will be used to make the bags, and the fact that it is no longer used to make rope increases the quantity of what will be used to make bags. Thatch trees are a renewable source. Developers can do their bit by conserving this tree on building sites or using them in their landscape design. As the need for thatch products decline, so did the need for the skill of weaving. However, just as the tree itself must be preserved for future generations, so must the tales and skill sets which go with it. Due to the fact that the local Caymanians will be out of business due to this policy that's set by the government, and the fact that some smaller businesses will not be able to afford to not charge for these bags, this will be a good means to put these Caymanians that the government has put out of business back in business. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? If no other member wishes to speak, I will ask the mover of the bill to exercise the right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to begin my rebuttal by first addressing a couple of key points raised by some of the honorable members of the opposition. There were 3 members of the opposition, the honorable member of West Bay Central, the honorable member of Red Bay, and the honorable member of Prospect, who all emphasized that this bill needs to take into account greater action in regards to the problem of plastic within our islands. That is a commendable effort, and I do thank the opposition for bringing that up. But I must address that the 7th clause of this bill that states, quote, "The Cabinet shall, after consultation with the authority, make regulations for the implementation, administration, and enforcement of this law," provides the necessary legal requirement for an extension of such powers in case of the future. And as such, I would like the opposition members who have voiced their concerns of this for a potential amendment to refrain from voting no, as their criticisms have actually been already addressed within the law itself. Madam Speaker, I would like to also include a brief rebuttal of the point made by the elected member for Red Bay, who stated that the time period given, 112 days, is too short notice for businesses to conduct themselves in a proper manner befitting of the regulations herein entitled. But I would like to again give the example of New South Wales, a state in the country of Australia with a population of 8 million people, who have done the exact same legislation, almost worded verbatim, but with a grace period of only 100 days. If the government of New South Wales can act so ambitiously, then surely we can as well. Madam Speaker, at the heart of this issue is the idea of community. The idea of community and working together is what binds both opposition and government together. We on the government have recognized the importance of collaboration and of solidarity in working towards the future of our islands. I would like to give a brief recollection of a period of time in 2004. Madam Speaker, when Hurricane Ivan hit the Cayman Islands, a lot of the areas in Grand Cayman were either affected or were affected by product. And what happened in the cleanup and the aftermath of the worst hurricane to hit the Cayman Islands since 1932? The opposition and the government came together. They came together to rebuild. They came together to clean. Like how we did in 2004, and we joined forces to look for the future of the Cayman Islands, to rise above petty party politics, we must do the same today, to recognize that the issues facing our children and our potential children's children are serious. And we must recognize that this bill herein entitled is that solution. Like how we worked in 2004, we should again do today. Madam Speaker, if the opposition still remains unconvinced, I will formally like to ask them to attend a beach cleanup. In fact, Madam Speaker, I'd like to inform the House that this coming Sunday, March 17th, there will be one at Safe Haven. And if the opposition remains unconvinced, then I'll be happy to show them the extent of the plastic problem in our environment and why this bill presented upon this House today should and needs to be passed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is that a bill shortly entitled The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags, Bill 2019, be given a second reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The bill is now deemed to have been read a second time. We will now go into committee to consider the bill. Please be seated. The House is now in committee. With the leave of the House, may I assume that, as usual, we should authorize the Honorable Attorney General to correct minor errors and such in this bill. Would the clerk please state the bill and read the clauses?
The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019. Clause 1, short title and commencement. Clause 2, interpretation. Clause 3, ban on plastic checkout bags. Clause 4, penalties. Clause 5, enforcement. Clause 6, public education. Clause 7, regulations.
Are there any questions on the clauses?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
I recognize Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Clause 4 penalties. What happens to business that are starting up? For example, tourism shops. What do business owners give tourists when they buy their souvenirs?
I recognize Honorable Minister of Environment.
In response to the Honorable Leader of Opposition, newly established shops and businesses that will directly be dealing with the tourism sector do not have to use plastic checkout bags. There are multiple different alternatives already offered in the Cayman Islands, such as thatch bags, as have been mentioned by, I believe, the Minister of Planning, Commerce and Development, as well as paper bags as well.
Are there any more questions?
Clause 6, public education.
Minister of Environment.
I state the question. What happens if school rejects the offer to have a plastic-free program in their school?
On the off chance that a school rejects the offer to implement public education programs within their schools, they would likewise be informed of a multitude of different legal ramifications of going against a pre-established law, which is already assumed in other subsections of the Cayman Islands Penal Code, which can include, specifically for private schools, the revocation of their education licenses. I would like to also give the matter that as a law implemented by the public sector, the public schools will by law have to follow this law as well.
Are there any more questions?
Yes, Clause 6, public education. How effective do you think this will be in public schools?
Well, that's more of a matter of opinion, but in my personal opinion, I see that this public education program having great deals of success within our within the public school system. It is to my knowledge that the public school system does not have, as of yet, a unified environmental class program. And as such, there remains a great deal of opportunity for those children to both learn more about their environment as well as how to protect and serve it.
Are there any more questions? If not, I will put the question. The question is that clauses 1 to 7 just stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no.
No!
The ayes have it. Clauses 1 to 7 stand part of the bill.
A bill for a law to regulate the use of plastic bags and for incidental and connected purposes.
The question is that the title does stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no.
No!
The ayes have it. The bill will accordingly be, the title stands part of the bill. The question now is that the bill be reported to the House. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye!
Those against, no. The bill will be accordingly reported to the House. House now resumes.
Reports on bills. The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019.
I recognize the Minister of Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing.
Madam Speaker, I am to report that the bill shortly entitled The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019 was considered by a committee of the whole House and passed without amendments.
I now call on the Honorable Premier to move for the suspension of Standing Order 47.
Madam Speaker, I move the motion for the suspension of Standing Order 47 to enable the regulation of the use of plastic bags Bill 2019 to be read a third time in this sitting.
The question is that Standing Order 47 be suspended to enable the regulation of the use of plastic bags, Bill 2019, to be read a third time in this sitting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no.
No!
Third reading, the Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019.
The ayes have it. I recognize the Minister of Environment.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags Bill 2019 be given a third reading and pass.
The question is that a bill shortly entitled The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags, Bill 2019, be given a third reading and pass. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no.
No!
The ayes have it. The bill shortly entitled The Regulation of the Use of Plastic Bags, Bill 2019, has been given a third reading and is passed. The House will suspend its proceedings for lunch. I ask all members to return to the chamber promptly at 2:00 p.m.